Hi, everyone, and welcome to Book Club with Bay. I am Bay, and this is Bay. Say hi, Bay.
Hi, Bay.
And this is other Bay. Say hi.
Hello.
And today we're actually talking about Twilight, something that Bay and I have discussed actually doing for the better part of, I guess, now 3 years.
Something like that.
Because we have talked about doing Twilight for a very long time. And we haven't done it. I think our motivation for not doing it was just that we don't have a ton of bad things to say about Twilight because it's not that bad.
There are issues in the later books, but the first one
it's fine.
It's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. So because I know that when people see that we're talking about Twilight, what you might be expecting is for us to go in on how terrible and problematic and how awful the writing is and all this kind of stuff. But I just don't have those kinds of things to say about Twilight. Some of the things I have to say is that some of the writing is good, actually. Especially the technical aspects of the writing and even some of the content is quite good. And let's be honest, Twilight is a paranormal YA romance that got really, really popular. But if you look at it in context, it is.
I had to sneeze. It didn't happen.
I'm
Sorry.
so sorry. It is a young adult paranormal romance, and
Yes.
it's exactly what it says it is. And I think a lot of people hate Twilight
because of the hype.
Because it was maybe advertised, the movie anyway, as not that if you look at the very early trailers for it. But when you look at it as, or when you're going into it expecting a young adult paranormal romance, that's exactly what it is.
What you get.
Yeah. I will say, for all of the movie's flaws, though, the baseball scene.
Baseball scene is amazing. And the baseball scene is good in the book, too. Like, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But it's fucking fire in the book as well. And, there's nothing overtly objectionable, out of left field, or whatever, off genre, off beat necessarily in the first book.
Yeah, I will say as well, it's been a good decade since I've read Twilight. It's been about 10 years.
I think about
give or take
2 years ago I reread it, so I really skimmed it for this. I'll have to definitely reread New Moon and everything else because I haven't reread those in a long time. But I've reread Twilight a lot more recently, and I also read Life and Death, like the gender swapped one, I think a year ago.
I forgot how little Alice is in the first book.
Yeah.
Right.
I forgot just how, I love Alice. Alice is probably, her and Jasper are probably my two favorite characters.
Dude,
I agree.
I love Jasper.
So I love Jasper as well.
He's so damaged, and I love it.
Yeah. And yeah, so for what it is, just talking about the first book, honestly, there's
we're forgetting something.
What?
Ratings.
I'm getting there. I'm not forgetting. I'm getting there.
Okay.
I just want to open and say that if you're expecting us to go nuts talking about how terrible it is, you're going to be so disappointed.
Wait until Breaking Dawn, and then there will be a lot of rants.
And then there will be confusion.
Yeah, and then I have things to say. But at least for the first book, honestly, as far as YA goes, and as far as YA romance, paranormal stuff goes,
you know what?
This is top shelf shit, man. This is like Patron, and House of Night is way below Jose Cuervo.
Yeah, House of Night's not even House. It's
House of Night is vomited up Jose Cuervo.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's worse than that. I don't know if you guys have it, but the little, I can't remember what brand it is, but the one that comes with the lid is the little sombrero.
We don't have that. I don't know that we have
that stuff. The only times I've been hungover in the last 15 years is after I've drank that stuff.
Okay, then House of Night is that stuff. Puked up.
It's so bad coming
mixed
up.
with whatever misguided things you ate. Like, that's what House of Night is, and this is just top shelf tequila, okay? Or whatever alcohol you enjoy. Because I know some people, including Addie, do not like tequila. But
Well, shame on you.
Can't
but
stand it.
like
Coffee
I really
Patron is amazing.
I think, you know what? I think that's my rating. In the context of YA romance, this is top shelf. I mean, honestly, if you want a good YA romance, like, this is probably as good as you're gonna get. I think.
It's like, when I was listening to it, I will say, like, I'm just like, oh my god, Bella is so melodramatic, but then I'm also like, but she's also 17.
Yeah.
So she's probably the most realistic 17-year-old I've ever, like, read in a YA romance.
Yeah.
Like, she's literally, like, you just take your perfectly average plain Jane girl and pop her into a vampire.
I do actually have a lot of good things to say about how she's written as well.
Yeah.
Versus how she's portrayed in the movies, which is
Oh,
like
God.
a cardboard box.
Oh, God.
Like,
yeah.
and that's another thing is that the book does well. So I guess, like, that's my rating. What do you guys have to say about ratings?
It's a nice red apple.
Ha!
Cute.
I'll say it's a nice
I went there.
pomegranate since the new one has a pomegranate on the cover.
Yeah, and actually that is the reason why we are doing Twilight, is because Midnight Sun is finally coming out in 2 weeks.
I'm
I think
actually
2 weeks
excited
exactly.
about that.
And it's Twilight from Edward's perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and because the first 12 chapters, I think, of Midnight Sun were leaked, I think,
Years
on
ago.
purpose.
Yeah.
Like, a long time ago, and I think it was to get feelers as to whether or not people would be interested. But then, yeah, she decided to have a tantrum, even though it was obviously purposely leaked, and yeah, but she's finally doing it. And I have the original leak, so I'm also I'll send it to you guys when we do the thing, and we can see if anything's really changed between them.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure the leak goes up to where they get to Port Angeles.
Okay.
Where she almost gets rape-a-doodle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's around there that goes up to.
So, did you give your rating?
She said pomegranate.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the cover of Midnight Sun.
So, I've read this book before, so I guess I can just say whelmed, and you know what?
Yeah.
Fuck it. I stand.
Yeah.
These, unlike the Harry Potter books, I was the right age for these books. So these books hit me at the right time. She made me read them. I was actually the right age to read the books and see the movies. I saw the first movie in theater. And I know that she and I actually saw the last. Do we see?
We saw Breaking Dawn Part 2 because remember we flipped our shit because we're like, everyone's dying. This was not in the books. What the fuck is happening? Because in the books, it's like a fucking paragraph. It's like Alice showed what's his nuts, what would happen if he attacked, and in the movie, it's a 20-minute segment of everyone fucking croaking.
We
Spoilers
know
for a decade-old movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dragged Stixie to see the Part 2 with me.
Mm-hmm.
He was just confused because he had avoided Twilight, and then he gets to see the last movie. And he was just all of the confused. But I remember when I saw I think it was Eclipse. I went to a midnight viewing the first night it came out, and Amy and I were so deliriously tired that we were just giggling the entire movie, especially when, I don't know if you remember this bit, but there was just this one bit where Bella tries to call Jacob and he's like, "This is Jake, leave a message." And just the way he said it, we were just pissing us. Everyone wanted us out of the theater.
I recently rewatched all the films also a couple weeks ago. So.
And I also worked, because my sister worked for a company that does conventions, and I worked for the Twilight convention. We did a pre-screening with Taylor Lautner, Nikki Reed, and the guy who plays Laurent, and did the convention. And I had to be Eddie Gathegi. That's his name. I was his breakfast bodyguard for the breakfast meet and greet. I had to sit in between him and everyone else, so no one got handsy with him. And I was present the first time Taylor Lautner had Vegemite.
Wow.
He did not enjoy it.
That's fun.
Nikki Reed is so small. She's the tiniest person I've ever met in my entire life.
Which is so interesting because in the movies, Rosalie looks like...
Oh, Rosalie, okay.
I can guarantee
tall.
they padded her so much for the movies. They had to have.
Well, she's in heels constantly in the movies.
Yeah, and also
But
because she's described
she
in
had
the
a
book
shape.
as being so, like, curvy stuff. And they did that for the movie, which is interesting because a lot of times when they pick an actress for, like, a movie or whatever, they don't.
Yeah, I can guarantee she had padding in her pants. I have to go get some water.
It's fine.
Have fun.
Yeah, because in the movie, she looks very Amazonian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Yeah, but so
I didn't mean to click that. Excuse me.
Next thing we usually do is characters.
I feel like everyone, unless they've been living under a rock for the past 10 years, knows who these people are.
We're gonna go. We have a fucking format. Addie.
Okay.
I want Faye to be here though because she missed what I said off camera.
Yes.
So when we talked about Bella off camera, so I actually wanted her to be here because she was like, "Oh, I'll be here when you fucking say it again." But now
All right. Well, then I'll do a story time. As you know, my dad wouldn't let me watch Twilight or read the books or anything like that. He refused to let me do that. So one day, like I think like right after it came out on DVD, my mom went and bought Twilight. My dad was out of town because he worked out of state. And we watched Twilight, and I think I watched it like 5 times in a row, mostly because my dad wouldn't want me to watch it. So I was like, "Fuck you! It's 2009, and I'm a rebel. I'm 12 years old, and I'm gonna watch Twilight." Yeah, so it's a fun little side story.
So, and I also want to talk about the characters too because like we're talking about the books, not the movies.
Yes,
and they are different. So. Starting with Bella, one thing I like about Bella is how she is done. And this kind of speaks to like the fact that the writing is good actually. And this is one of those things where we talked about with like House of Night, like how did this get published? Like how did somebody greenlight? People had to read this, a lot of people, because it's a publishing house, like an agent, a bunch of editors, a bunch of people had to fucking read this, and then they had to go yes, and then they had to publish it, and then a bunch of people bought it and gave it 5 stars. Like how did that happen? But with Twilight, like with Bella, for example, she's a tomboy, and I had kind of forgotten about this because it hadn't really hit me. But now that we've been doing book club and we've been talking about a lot of these, like I'm not like other girls, even like when we talk about Rachel Vincent and all that with Faith.
Yeah.
Bella is kind of a not like other girls character, but she's done very differently. Because, like, for example, everybody knows about like her old beat up truck. But when she gets the truck, she just is really happy about this fucking truck. She's so fucking excited. But she's just excited about
never happened to her.
And you're never given this line like Bella liked old trucks because fuck pretty things. It's just she's fucking excited about the truck.
Yeah. She was like, wow, free is better than paying for one, so I will enjoy my truck now. Thank you, Charlie.
Right.
And then and most people, like, I don't know about you guys, but when you got your first car, were you not at all like emotionally attached to it? I had a shitty old car, little hatchback, and I loved that thing.
I love my car.
So TJ went with me when I sold my car and bought my new one.
Yeah.
I almost cried.
Yeah.
I hugged my car and I almost cried.
And
this is the last time I'm gonna see it.
Yeah, like if I got like given like a 40-year-old car, I'd probably like, hate everything that comes with having a 40-year-old car, but I
Yeah.
would also like love that thing because it would be like it's got character, okay? It's created its own life force through the years. New cars don't have life forces, old cars do. You get emotionally attached to them.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that is subtly done, but it comes off much better than if it's shoved in your face like she's a tomboy, she's not like other girls. And it's nice. Also, Bella is clumsy, but you're not told that she's clumsy. She just falls down a lot and she can't play volleyball.
Yeah.
And you're just shown that she's a fucking klutz. And so you get those moments without
there's
it
a lot
being
more
like
showing.
Yeah, and it makes her like, I know she seems bland in the movie. I get that. She's not anywhere near as bland in the books.
I don't
She's
think
such a
Kristen
person.
Stewart could play a character who isn't bland. Have you ever seen her be not bland in a movie?
I've never seen anything else with her in it.
There's a movie that she made when she was like, I think 14 or 15. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be called Speak or something. And she's a selective mute because she was raped at a party.
Yeah.
And it's just a boring movie. A movie with that kind of thing. Kristen Stewart is just a boring actress, and I don't understand the hype.
Yeah, I concur.
But that's what the indie director of the first movie wanted, so that's what we got for the whole series.
But like Bella is like you said, she's a bit melodramatic, but she's also 16, but she does read as a likable character with opinions, but also with like quirks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
I will say though, God, she's a masochist. She's like, that is one thing that does bug me about it. She's like, oh my God, it's so. She just spends the whole book bitching about how green it is, and I'm just like, you chose to live there. You chose this.
Just wait till next one when we sit here for 7 months straight because she's sad.
Oh God, yeah, no.
The next one always irritates the piss out of me.
Then the next one and the last book, I think, are the two ones where it's most.
The odd numbered books are the best books in the series.
Yeah.
But I will say that as far as YA female protagonists go, she's one of the less insufferable and better written protagonists.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, also, at least in this one, besides the fact that she's like, hey, I'm the one person that you want to eat more than anyone else, let's date. Besides that stupid decision.
Which, I mean, it has to happen, though. Like,
yeah, but she doesn't make for example, Alex in Covenant. It was just fuck up after fuck up after fuck up. People died. It all ended badly, and everyone's still just like, Alex, you're so great.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the decisions Bella makes in this, she's like, okay, well, I'm going to do a thing that will try and help protect people. And you see why she made that decision. Like when she goes to meet James at the ballet studio, you're like, look, probably not the best choice, but I completely understand.
Yeah.
And I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Nothing she does seems to be ego-driven.
And more than that, even if it seems maybe a little misguided, you can understand how you, as a teenager love-struck by a vampire, might do the same dumb shit.
Yeah. I do really like the scene where one of my favorite scenes in the book is when her and like their first is it biology that they have together?
Yes.
With their partners, yeah. Their first class together, and he's just like, oh God, and he's holding his breath, and she's like, do I smell?
Yeah.
She's sniffing her hair. She's like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Like,
I showered. Like,
Like there's a lot of human moments in the book.
Yeah,
and I do
nice.
enjoy those.
Yeah, it is, and those moments are nice. And there's a lot of that stuff is much better done in this book than it is in a lot of other young adult books I've read, and I've read a fuck ton of them. Okay, so I'm a very good. I'm a good fucking authority on this, all right? I've read so many YA books in my time. And I will say those moments and just presenting a not like other girls character, it's done a lot better in a book like this. Like in this book, it's just done much better. So yeah, like that's what I have to say about Bella.
And as well, just another, because it's impossible not to do movie book comparisons.
Oh yeah,
but the scene where she's like, "Hey, I know you're a vampire," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Yes, I am a vampire." One, they don't actually have to come out and say it. Like he knows what she's talking about. She knows what he's talking about. Whereas in the movie,
it's a great scene.
Say it
for all the wrong reasons. I know what you are.
It's the biggest meme.
Say it out loud.
If I ever say, like, my boyfriend's only seen the movie maybe once, and if I ever say, like, I know what blank is, he just looks at me and whispers, "Say it." And I'm like, stop!
One thing I love is Robert Pattinson hates Edward with a fiery passion.
Edward doesn't deserve... Okay, so moving on to Edward. Edward doesn't deserve that, though.
Yeah.
Edward... Okay, another thing, backtracking to Bella, Bella actually has some pretty good one-liners in the book.
Yeah, Bella is a lot more sarcastic in the book than what Kristen Stewart can
she's
portray.
not a cardboard box of a character.
Well, you know what's funny? If you watch the movie, the lines are in the movie.
They're just delivered horribly.
It's just that the delivery is like terrible. So
yeah, like
she has the line where they're like, because I watched part of the movie as well, and it'll be like the line where they're like, "Oh, you're from like Phoenix, shouldn't you be tan?" And she's like, I guess that's why they kicked me out. And it's like,
but she just says it like, I guess
like,
that's why they kicked me out.
Where it could have been like, yeah, I guess that's why they kicked me out. Like,
yeah, and
sound a little fucking bitchier.
Yeah, like, and someone was like, "You're from Phoenix, why are you so pale?" And she's like, "Well, my mother was half albino, you know." And that line I don't think was in the movie, but you can imagine. But it just, if it had been, we all know how it would have been delivered. Like,
yeah, what the line that was in the movie instead was, I guess that's why they kicked me out.
Yeah, book Bella is sarcastic, whereas movie Bella is just
a cardboard box.
Yeah, like I said, those sarcastic lines are in the movie. They're just
not delivered well.
They're not delivered. So, like, the funny lines are in the movie,
but they're not.
They don't land.
Yeah, because it's all with how it's said as well. Like, you can try and be as sarcastic as you want, but if you sound not if it doesn't read right, then it's not sarcasm and it's not funny.
Yeah, which yeeting over to Edward,
yes,
he is also rather funny.
Yeah, he's a very likable love interest. He's fine.
Yeah, he's a likable love interest. He Gucci gang. You can see yourself wanting to be like, "Ooh, I'd fuck that." Like,
hey, like, yeah.
And also that scene where, you know, if you've seen the movie, to tie it back to the movie, because that's probably what everybody has actually seen. Yeah. The scene where they walk into the cafeteria for the first time is absolutely an iconic scene.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very much iconic in the book. It's so dramatic in the book. And honestly, I stand that scene because it's so... Yeah. I love how melodramatic it is because
that's how it feels when you're 17.
It is, right? When, like, you see the hottest guy in school for the first time, and like everybody's like, "Don't look," and you're like, "Okay," so you're not looking, but you're totally looking.
and everything's in slow-mo in your head.
Everything, just slows down. You're just, and like you can just
And
see
like
like
the heavens
wind
open
go
up,
around.
and like the heavens open up even though you're not outside. It's like a whole thing, and it's great, and it's described that way, and I stand that energy because that's what high school fucking feels like. High school feels like the end of the world, and because you know what, when you're in high school, it fucking is. It is the end of the world.
Which is why we have Buffy.
Yeah. So, yeah, Edward in the books, he's very likable and everything. And then, so, like, I don't know if we said this, but Alice is not in this
as active
much,
of a role as she is in the movie.
but Alice is the one who has the visions. Oh, also Edward can read minds, in case you forgot. But not Bella's minds.
Yeah,
So
Bella has a shield that she doesn't know about yet.
And Alice does the visions thing.
Yes. Jasper can influence emotion.
Yeah. And Alice is very quirky. She's very much a quirky person.
Yeah, she's just a happy little pixie.
Yeah.
I freaking love Alice.
They took Tumblr, a Hot Topic, put it in a fucking blender.
But with a sprinkle of like
pixie dust.
Yeah, some zest of like preppy girl. Because she's so happy.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. Alice is like one of the best characters in any book.
And also in both media. She's phenomenal in both forms.
And then Jasper, poor Jasper, he's so damaged.
Alice's boyfriend.
Yes.
And then
life partner.
Emmett. What does he do?
Emmett
I don't know.
He's super strong.
Yeah. He's just swole.
Yeah. Because his special thing that he brought over was he was a strong human, and now he's a super strong vampire.
Yep. And then there's Rosalie.
Yeah, wait. Emmett's a barrel of laughs. He is greatly amused by Bella.
Yeah.
Yes.
He thinks every time she falls over is
Bella.
funny. Yes, his girlfriend slash foster sister slash wife.
Technicalities.
Yes. Vampire families are complicated, okay? It's
the
hard.
foster thing's just kind of a front. Like Carlisle just turned all of them and they just kind of live together. It's fine.
It's a cover. Yeah, it's fine. So yeah. Also to the world, Carlisle and Esme, they foster Edward, Jasper, and Emmett, Edward, Alice, and Emmett. No, but they're just three random people that they've adopted. Sorry, and then Jasper and Rosalie are actually siblings because they look similar, and they're Esme's relations of some sort. That's the front of the situation. But yeah, Rosalie brought over her beauty. She's like, I guess, Sports Illustrated model pretty.
Yeah.
And she's a bit of a bitch.
She's a very angsty woman.
She hates being a vampire.
Mm-hmm. She didn't want it, like more so than the others.
She gets humanized as the series goes on. And in the last book, she becomes Bella's strongest ally, as we all know.
Yeah.
But for the meantime, she's
gonna be a bitch till Breaking Dawn, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have Carlisle and Esme, I guess.
Yeah.
Carlisle's a doctor.
I love Carlisle and Esme. Somehow, it's great.
He's a hot doctor. And Esme lost a baby and tried to suicide, and Carlisle found her and
saved her.
Did a turn, and now she has her vampire children. So,
another little bit about the lore that I think gets lost in the movies is that the age that you turn is the age that you kind of mentally and emotionally stay.
Yeah, so
that's
that does get lost.
Which is how they kind of explain why everybody stays in high school. Also, everybody stays in high school so the 16-year-old can fall in love with a vampire. That's the other reason everybody's in high school. Okay, just
yeah, plot armor, but also because they're still 17 in their heads.
Yeah, and also because it's probably one of the least creepy vampire-human relationships because of that. Because in a lot of ones, you know,
he's
you'll meet a
also
12-year-old
only like
vampire who's just
100-year-old.
evil as fuck. Yeah, and
he's only 100 years old.
Yeah, he's been a vampire for about 80 years. But he's still mentally a 17-year-old, so it's not like he's like an 80-year-old man trying to bang
a 17-year-old.
A 17-year-old like it is in a lot of vampire romances.
Yeah, he really just has been 17 for 80 years. And it's actually something that in the books, I forget when it gets touched upon, but Edward does actually at some point talk to Bella about how weird it is. I think. Yeah, how weird it is to not develop and feel like you're getting older.
Yeah, and because it's a major, like, it's the biggest plot point of Breaking Dawn, that because vampire children are against vampire law, because you turn a 3-year-old into a vampire, they're going to be 3 and chuck temper tantrums, but with vampire strength.
Yeah, they're very OP.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of criticism as well is like, oh yeah, like it's so romantic that like 100-year-old man and a 17-year-old are hooking up, and I'm like, but he's still mentally 17, and he just has happened to have lived for 80 years, like 80 years as 17.
It doesn't read like he's older than 17.
He's very
he's just damaged, you know, because he's killed people.
Yeah,
like even for example, we'll talk about show Vampire Diaries, and I don't like criticizing my favorite show, but we'll do it. Like Stefan and Damon past like the couple of first episodes when they finally figured out how to do a show and it stops being like ridiculously corny. Stefan and Damon no longer really act like they're super young or whatever.
Yeah.
They act like adults, while the other characters kind of act way more teenagery.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing implicit about being a vampire that you just stop aging. You know, like it doesn't do anything to freeze your maturity or anything like that. So Damon really is like 165 years old. And he's fucking an 18-year-old. So like that just is what happened.
He was in love with a 17-year-old first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Edward is just a 17-year-old who's been 17 for 80 years.
Yeah. So really, it would be the way that the lore is actually written in Twilight. It would actually be weird for Edward to be attracted to be genuinely attracted and interested in adults, because he wouldn't have the emotional maturity to be able to do it.
Yeah, that would be predatory on the adult's part.
Yeah,
because he doesn't have the emotional maturity to carry on that kind of relationship.
Yeah, and because we all know that there is a big difference between even 17 and 21.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so it's probably the least creepy vampire human pairing in YA paranormal fantasy.
Yeah. I will say that kind of lore does kind of break things once you start bringing children into it and you have to bring in character development.
Yeah, but that said, though, if a 17-year-old is capable of
becoming a parent,
of growing up due to circumstance,
yeah, that's true.
It's still not ideal, and by the time Bella turns, because she's 17 in this book,
she turns at 18, I believe.
she turns 18 at the beginning of the next book, and then she turns 3 days before her 19th birthday.
Yeah.
So she's effectively 19. And she's like, no, I am 18. I am 18 forever. Fuck you all. I'm not going to be 2 years older than Edward.
Yeah.
But so there is a bit more, because even between 17 and 19, you do a hell of a lot of growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So there is on the parent front, she's got like an extra 2 years worth of emotional growth.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a plus.
That kid's gonna be old in 7 years. It doesn't matter.
Probably in less time. Like she got to like age 7 by like
The
6
movie
months
said
old.
that in 7 real life years she'd hit like 20, and then she'd reach final maturity at like 7 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember what the book.
I don't remember what the book says,
does it,
but that's what the movie says.
Yeah,
After 7 years, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. For the Breaking Dawn stream, we will have to bring up stills of movie baby Renesmee being creepy.
It's just CGI.
Yeah, I know it's CGI and it's freaking creepy.
Yeah, that baby is an issue. The CGI baby, not like babies in general.
Well, there's other issues with the baby too, but those issues aren't her fault. But we'll get to that when we get to Breaking Dawn.
Yeah.
I guess another character is Charlie.
Oh yeah,
Poor
Dad.
Charlie.
I love Charlie though.
I love movie Charlie. You know what? I kind of prefer movie Charlie. Don't hurt me.
Movie Charlie's great. I love him.
No, his actor was actually so good.
Yeah, who
They
was
cast
it
him very correctly. I have no idea.
It's
I don't
Billy
think I've.
Burke?
Yes.
Is that his name?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, like the shotgun scene.
All right.
I really wish that book Charlie was as cool as movie Charlie, because book Charlie is just sad and pathetic.
But
like,
movie Charlie's like, I am Dad.
Yeah, he's still got like movie Charlie clearly still has like the emotional damage, and he's like, hey, you're my daughter and you were taken away from me and I love you and all that. But he's got some mojo, yeah.
My favorite scene from the entire movie series is when Jacob's like, all right, I'm going to tell you what happened to Bella in a weird way. And he starts stripping. And Charlie's like, whoa.
It's the best moment of the whole series.
Naked. And he's just like, you're going to want to back up. And Charlie's just like, I want to run away. You are a minor and you're getting naked.
Yes. I love that he's just like, please put your fucking clothes back on. I know it doesn't say fuck, but it was a PG-13 movie, and I really wish that they had used their one fuck right there. Please put your fucking clothes back on.
Yeah. Alas, no. But
oh shit, sorry.
Yeah. But book Charlie is a broken man. He is a very broken man because he met Bella's mum. They got married very young. Had Bella very young, and then Renee's like, I don't want to be here anymore. Fuck this. And she just takes Bella and yeets. And it's like,
she's on her like fourth husband now.
And it's just like, you couldn't, like, not only did you take her, like, leave, you took your daughter to a different state. And it's just sad. Like, poor Charlie. And he's never moved on. He moved. He does get a happy ending,
like Breaking Dawn.
Yeah. And ironically,
Mom.
Yeah. Renee is an adult-sized toddler.
Yeah,
effectively.
More or less.
She's married a guy who's like 20 years younger than her.
Yep, who's like a minor league baseball player. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he's like in his early to mid 20s, I think. She would be late 30s if she's got a
Late 30s.
17-year-old that she had young.
Yeah.
So yeah, about 15 years younger than her then. And yeah, and she's sad because she doesn't get to follow Phil around, which is her husband. So Bella's like, okay, fine, well, I'll just go and live with my dad.
I'll just go live with Dad, yeah.
Yeah. Renee doesn't have a big part in any of the books. We see her every so often just to be like, hey, Bella still has a mom. But
yeah.
While Charlie gets a vague idea of everything that's going on, by the end of the series, Renee
knows nothing.
She knows nothing. So, because we have to protect fragile, immature
She is
Renee.
completely ignorant of anything happening to her daughter.
Yeah, Charlie eventually finds out basically everything that's happening.
Like,
yeah, he's never told though.
He's never told explicitly that she's like a vampire. But he's like, she's different, but does she turn into a dog? And they're like, no. And he's like, okay, cool.
Yep. And
he's like, she's different, but do I have to see her naked? And they're like, no. And he's like,
yeah. And the only explanation he gets pretty much in regards to what she is like, yeah, she's not going to age, this and that. However, we can't tell you what she is, or you will. And
yeah, like there are people that will kill you.
He's like, okay, so as far as I'm aware, she's just some sort of unaging thing with a daughter who is just aging rapidly. Okay,
niece.
I can live with that.
Niece.
He finds out by the end that it's their kid.
Does he really?
I'm pretty sure he knows it by the end. That,
yeah, I think he does too.
I think he only just heavily implies that he knows, though. He doesn't actually outright say it. Or he's like, oh, she's like her mother. And she's like, what do you mean? You never met her mother. It's like, haven't I? It's something like that.
He's just like, she has your fucking eyeballs, Belle.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's framed in that sort of context where he's
that's
like,
what he says in the movie. So I'm assuming that might be what it is in the book.
Yeah, I think he finds out. I don't exactly remember. Like I said,
he's
I'm
not
far
a
more
stupid
familiar
man.
With Twilight.
Yeah, he's not a stupid man.
No, that is not.
He works it out. But and then there's her school friends, but we'll do them as we go. Yeah. There's James, Victoria, and Laurent.
Yep.
Book Laurent is nothing like movie Laurent. He's olive. He has like all vampires have a super pale complexion, and you can just tell what race they are by their undertones. Laurent is olive skinned with short hair, and I don't know if he's Quebecian or French, but he's some sort of French.
He's not how he's portrayed in the movie.
You know, something that actually always confused me was like, what happens if you are black and you get turned into a vampire?
You know what? You know how like really pale biracial people.
Yeah, I'm like, do you get like Jeffree Star bleached? Like, is that?
They still have
Jeffree Star come out of a closet
and toss bleach on you? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you end up with a very pale complexion, but your undertones is still clearly, for example,
you probably look like an African American albino person.
Honestly, I can see why they didn't go that route.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I can see why they were just like, you know what, we're casting a black actor. Let's just leave him black.
Because the thing is, you know, this came out. The original book came out in
2005.
2005. And you know, vampires are historically pale, never see the sun, etc., etc.
And historically from like Eastern Europe.
So I can see why Stephanie went that route. I get it. But I can't see something like that being
portrayed in.
I think it would be very hard to do without making them look really stupid or make them look like they're wearing a shit ton of foundation.
Well, I mean, the only way you could do it is just by casting a very light-skinned black person. But I also think that, like, creating a thing where your superhuman race is also very light-skinned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I understand the rationale that does not have racist undertones, I think it also...
It could be perceived that way.
Yeah, even if it's not intended that way. You know?
And
So I think they made a good call not going that direction.
And let's be honest, when you're making media, it's best to consider what people may perceive your work to imply, because you don't want to be alienating your target audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's better to go the route of inclusivity. Because also you can describe people as looking like they haven't seen the sun without, or like they don't get much sun in different ways without lightening their skin.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm pretty sure at some stage, because again, Book Laurent is not, or prior to being vampy, he wasn't black, he was olive skinned. So he was likely potentially biracial, but also potentially like Mediterranean of some sort, at least ethnically. But I'm pretty sure at some stage in the book there is a vampire that Bella could tell was black.
Probably in Breaking Dawn, where they do the round table of everyone on the planet.
Yeah, and Bella, like, we'll have to see how that gets described, because I can't remember exactly, but I can remember that she can tell what they were before they got all pale.
Yeah, I think it's just best to portray it as, like, you know, but also if you actually watch the movie, I don't know what they do to his skin. It might be just like something
they do make him look like you know, in Sims, TJ,
they make him look a little gray.
Like a little bit grayer.
Yeah, like the Sims, like the skin, the Sims vampire skin tones, where you can make
grayer.
Like, and you know they do that to the people too, or the white people.
Yes, they do.
Wow, I'm a piece of shit. I am so sorry.
Well, anyway,
they do that to the white people too, where they give them like this weird grayish tint until they're in like direct sunlight.
Yes, yeah, they do that.
So like Robert Pattinson and everybody just has like this weird like ashy.
He looks weird, sort of,
like to their skin tone. It's not like a cool undertone, but it's literally like a gray tint. And I think they did that to Laurent's skin tone as well.
Yeah,
they
honestly,
did.
So, and I think that works.
Yeah, that does work.
I think because Eddie Gathegi is pretty funny, and they did not give, like, if you're going to cast him as Laurent, like, give him something to work with. They didn't give him anything to work with in the movie.
And Laurent has some good fucking lines. You know what? I do remember this in the New Moon movie. Laurent and Bella. When Laurent comes back, Laurent and Bella actually do have some nice back and forth in the movie.
They do.
They gave him some more to work with, which was nice to see.
Yeah, I will say, I do think Catherine Hardwicke was the worst thing to happen to Twilight. She was the director of the first movie. Because a lot of her casting choices, I mean, besides the direction of the movie and how bland she made it, like, Nikki Reed should never have been cast as Rosalie, but because they had made 13 together, and that's why she cast Nikki Reed. And Nikki, like, it's very clear after the first movie that Nikki Reed is wearing wigs. She had to bleach her skin.
Yeah.
The first movie she was bleaching her hair. She lost half of her hair because she was portraying an ethnically white but also vampire, who was white blonde. And I don't know if you guys have seen Nikki Reed. I know you have. She is not pale. She's not blonde. She's quite dark. Yeah, she's olive complexion. She's got yeah. And whereas Rosalie is, you know,
pale as fuck, obviously vampire.
Caucasian, blonde, and pale, because vampire. And she wanted her, and she tried, like, and they said if they had changed Rosalie's ethnicity in the movie, that would have been one thing, but they didn't. They tried to keep her the same. So Nikki Reed was bleaching her skin and her hair for the first movie, and then after the first movie, she was just bleaching her skin.
The fact they had her bleach her skin is pretty fucking gross to me.
Yeah, I think as it went on, they just did a lot of makeup, and like you can see as
Probably
the movie
post.
goes on, she gets darker as well. She does less damage to herself.
Like,
she shouldn't have been cast as that. Like, they
No.
should have gotten or
just do
changed
makeup.
Rosalie.
Yeah, or just something. Like, I'm very against having actors do things like bleach their, like, that's not healthy for your skin.
There's a
by the
difference
way.
between, like, you know, like working out super hard for a role, like, you know, the Avengers, like Captain America,
Even
whatever, Chris Evans.
even that's really fucking damaging to them.
Yeah, well,
though.
like,
that's
yeah,
not
like,
fucking good for them.
Like Taylor
Unless
Lautner
they're
had to
normally
stack on.
bulky.
Yeah, like they were considering recasting Jacob for the second movie because Taylor Lautner was, you know, like a young teenage boy, and which is what Jacob was in the first movie. In second movie, he gets like, second movie, he's like ripped as fuck.
Yeah, because he becomes a werewolf.
And so they were considering recasting him, and he's like, "No, I can do this." So he was working out like 4 or 5 times a day to build the muscle to be like, hey, I can still be Jacob. And thank goodness.
I wonder how he feels about that decision now.
Well, you know what, though? Thank goodness, because at least he got to redeem himself from the bad wig of the first movie.
Yeah.
That wig was horrible.
He was
even
so
for, like,
bad looking.
Things like Avengers or, like, Aquaman and stuff.
Well, Jason Momoa is naturally...
Well, it's not like about them being
even
naturally bulky. What they do is they train really hard, they cut, and then those first couple of days of filming, they film like all the scenes where they need to look, or where they're
as ripped as possible.
Yeah, where they need to look as ripped as possible. They're dehydrated as shit. They feel like hot garbage. Like, it's really fucking unhealthy because their body fat is like at 1 or 2%. It's fucking insane. And then they're allowed to eat. But these people haven't eaten in like 4 weeks. They're not allowed to drink fucking water all day because then their abs won't look okay. Or like you won't be able to see his arms through his fucking shirt. And then also they bulk them up in post. It's fucking crazy. And then like once they don't need them to look as ripped because they're going to CGI on the suit anyway, then they let them eat stuff. So like it's kind
some actors go
fucking
through a lot
bananas.
for their roles.
Yeah, they do.
Especially superheroes. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I also think that Edward was poorly cast and purely like Robert Pattinson does have some good moments as Edward, like fine. Some. He also has a lot of awful moments as Edward, but I also don't know how much
Hold
of that is
tight, you little spider monkey.
Well, I will say though, that wasn't. So a lot of it can't be blamed on him though, because he has to read what he's given. He has to read what he's given. But when casting Edward, you would think that they would go, "We need to see you shirtless because you're shirtless in the next movie." But they didn't, and now we have to live with that. Because they also didn't get him a body double.
So.
But sorry, I'm picturing it and I'm just
remember how we said we weren't going to go on many tangents?
I know, but we have. Okay.
Welcome to Book Club with Bae.
Yes. Plot, I guess.
Where we sit here and do our nails. And
I broke. One of mine just broke. That's what happened over here. It's not a big deal. I'm pushing them all down since I'm going out of town soon. So like where is my there it is. So I'm like I have to get them all down anyways.
Mine are finally growing back.
I had to trim all of mine the other week because I'm still doing a lot of like sorting through stuff and cleaning out stuff and everything, and they kept snapping and I'm like, I'm just gonna cut you all down.
Yeah.
So
sometimes you just need it.
Yeah, I cut all of mine down and they're finally growing back, which I'm happy about, but you know.
So, plot.
Yes, the plot.
Bella
Welcome.
moves to Forks.
Bella moves to Forks.
Meets a vampire, falls in love, almost dies. The end.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's the plot in a few words.
One thing honestly, I don't think we really need to just do the plot point by point with Twilight.
Yeah,
it's such
no.
a well-known series.
Yeah, like I didn't even take notes for this because I mean everyone knows
Neither
the
did
story.
I.
Like for my notes, what I do have up in case we wanted them, I have the Wikipedia page up for it. Like in case we wanted to go point by point, I was like, all right,
Yeah,
well,
I didn't
have a
take
directed
either.
timeline.
Because like I said, I didn't really reread the book. I kind of just like I didn't even listen to the whole thing. Because
Yeah, I
will say
because I just rewatched the films.
We do need to say though, because whenever we have a bad narrator, we do have to bring them up.
yes, the narrator was
have fun
a
with
bit
this.
fucking insufferable.
Yes, the narrator. Okay, it's fine. It's fine if the narrator can't do like the deep, convincing or semi-convincing, obviously male voice. You can live with that. But at least have different voices for your characters. Every single character had the exact same voice in this audiobook. Except somehow, I think it was a slightly higher pitch for the male characters. So they sounded a bit more girly.
Which was an odd choice.
Yeah, it felt like a very odd choice to make all of the male characters a slightly higher pitch. Because there were like the scenes with multiple people, when someone said something, sometimes I'd be like, oh, that must be Alice, I guess. And it's like, no, it's Charlie, and I know that they're not in the scene together, but you get my point.
Yeah, like it made everything kind of hard to follow. Which is like annoying as fuck because honestly, that's not really how books read.
No, and
because in books, sometimes when you get into like a back and forth conversation where there's two people, for example, you can go like five or six lines without dialogue tags because there's like two people in a conversation. And you can be like, yes, no, no dialogue tags because it's
you know
person,
the order of the person.
Right, exactly, because you're looking at it. And in a book with a good narrator, you also don't need dialogue tags because it's fine. But in a book with a shitty narrator, where the voices aren't changing at all, or they're changing so subtly, or it's going higher for the guys, you're like, wait, what the what
is happening?
There were a couple of scenes where she sounded a little bit like Emily Schaefer, who did Bloodlines. And I'm just like, you know who would have been great for this series? Emily Schaefer.
Yeah.
Instead, we get... Oh, what the fuck is her name?
I don't even know what her name is.
I'm bringing it up to find her name.
I am... Oh, did you see that we're getting a new Alpha and Omega book?
Oh, are we?
Yes. Also, I don't know if you saw this.
Ileana Kadushin.
What a name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also don't know if you saw this either, but did you see that Rachel Kane has cancer?
No.
Go to her Twitter. She's like... She is in not good shape.
No, she is absolutely
I think Diana
Gabaldon
tweeted about her.
You know,
and it's making me so sad because the Morganville Vampire series is probably the reason, like, why it's definitely the reason why I started reading books and got into it. And it's probably the reason why I got into books enough to even start writing them. I mean, like, we started writing books together, Addie, you and I did, but like, I don't think I would have been into it enough without the Morganville series. Like, that was like my gateway drug into like reading shit. And so this makes me fucking sad.
Yeah, and like one thing with Morganville is that there are so many continuity errors in it. It's insane, but I don't mind. I mean, like, I mind when they pop up, and I'm like, well, that's rude. That's not how that happened. But I still love the series.
I love the series too. This makes me really sad. Yeah, it was like, I don't know, it was like my first little jaunt into the world of actually reading shit. I didn't read before that.
Mine was House of Night because of you.
I'm so sorry.
The House of Night
Oh.
is the
Why did
reason that
reading?
because
Because
we
she
thought
needed
they
to find
were
something
good.
better.
Remember, we thought they were pretty good. And then I discovered the Die For Me series, and then I was like, oh, this is how books are
This
supposed
is
to be.
good.
Yeah, really. This is how books are supposed to be written.
It was that, and it was House of Night and Strange Angels. Those were like the first two series. And Princess Diaries. Those were the first series I ever read.
Yeah, for me it was Morganville. That's what got my parents to spend way too much money at Barnes and Noble. The amount of money my poor parents spent at Barnes and Noble over Morganville wasn't okay. I do know at one point when I was younger, they bought me the first Mercy book, and I started to read it, and I hated it because I was like 13 and I didn't know what was happening. But yeah, so this does make me sad. And yeah, I do remember that we did like House of Night, and then at one point we just started hating Zoe, but we
It
still
was
liked
your
it.
fault that I got in House of Night. You discovered it. I don't know how.
I did,
But you
well,
did.
because I was at Barnes and Noble one day, and I just, I used to just pick up books and start reading them. Like I just saw the covers, and I was like, "That looks good.
This is nice." Yeah.
I'm gonna read it."
My mum introduced me to House of Night because she was just like, "Oh, look, vampire YA. That looks like something that she'll like," and bought me the first like 3 books. And now here we are.
It's cool.
The end for now? Question mark.
It's cool, but yeah. So so the plot, I guess, I don't know what to say because like the
boy meets girl, boy is vampire.
Yeah,
girl wants boy to turn her into vampire.
It's hard to talk about this nothing burger of a plot. Because it's a romance book, and
like it's interesting. I will say one thing that I did find interesting in this is like James is the antagonist of the book.
Yes,
he's only in the last quarter of the book.
Yeah,
there's nothing before that. Like
it's the baseball game, right? That's when he shows up.
Yeah, the whole like we got like a precursor of like and sometime in the next week some vampy vamps are going to be coming past. That's all. That's the only precursor, but it was interesting that you were able to stay engaged even though the big bad of the book doesn't appear, like isn't even a big bad until the last quarter of the book.
Well, yeah, because it's like you're captivated by the story between the boy that doesn't like want to be into Bella, and then them.
Right, because like the real story, I mean, it's like any other romance book, right? Because the real story here is like, are they going? I mean, I guess in this case, they're not going to do it yet, but
because they're not married yet.
Are they going to get together and stuff like that? It's the romance. That's the story. Like it is with any romance book. Like most romance books. Even in adult romance, it's always got like some kind of like murder, kidnap, something happens at the end of it. But it's
Outlander.
But that's literally every romance book. Every romance book has some kind of thing that happens at the end, but that's not like the book.
Yeah. Like at least Twilight doesn't lie to you about what its intentions are.
Yeah, it's a paranormal YA romance.
Like, because also like what the whole James scenario brings up is just Bella wants to turn, and if she turns, then like so the whole thing is just like, well, it's not like it's a romance book where it's supposed to be a romantic subplot. Like, no, the plot is the romance, the antagonist is the subplot. And it acknowledges that, which is nice.
And
it's
really
kind
that
of
until the last book. Until the last half of the last book. That's really what it's all about. It's
kind of refreshing, because you don't get that often. You don't often get a YA paranormal fantasy romance that's honest about what it is.
Yeah, but this makes no bones about, like, you know, like, the plot is really like, will Edward and Bella get together? And
Be vampy vamps together.
And the answer is yes.
But we gotta wait a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, by the end of this book, they are dating.
Yes.
They are a
And
thing.
he's like, I'm not turning you into a vampire.
Yep,
And she's
he
like,
takes her
why
to
not?
prom.
Yeah, he takes her to
Yeah.
prom with her broken arm because she had her fight with James.
Yep, and a broken leg. And it really says something about Bella that the story is, because the cover story, because she gets beaten the crap, like, she gets the crap beaten out of her by a vampire, and the cover story is she fell down a flight of stairs, and everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. Sounds
Yeah.
like Bella.
Yeah.
I really liked just, because the movie also just doesn't give enough credit to, like, the rest of the Cullens. Like, they're kind of just, like, existing for the most part in the movies, but, like, there's just little bits where Bella's like, well, you know, I didn't fall down a flight of stairs, so, like, won't the lack of damage be proof? And Edward's just like, well, I think Emmett had a little bit too much fun fabricating evidence and stuff like that. Like, you just get, like, these little snippets of,
No, ma'am.
like,
Yeah.
like, Emmett is a lot more fun than movie Emmett, because movie
Mhm.
Emmett kind of just, like, broods and looks intimidating, but he's like the
He
big
doesn't get
brother
a
that
personality
everyone
until the
wants.
last movie.
Yeah.
Until literally the last movie.
Yeah, and I will say this, pretty much everybody except Charlie is way more fun in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think this is just a product of something that teenage girls liked getting popular.
Yeah. I will say one thing that really creeped me out was all, like, the Twi mums.
Oh my god, yeah, no, it's weird. But
Like,
when
freaking,
yeah.
like, God, like, middle-aged women sliding off their movie seats over a 17-year-old boy is just creepy.
It is.
It's the
It's
reason
so
why
creepy.
50 Shades of Grey exists.
Oh, well,
I do-
literally, because
I
50
do
Shades is
love-
Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah.
I do
And you
love
can
the
tell.
fact that instead of a car, though, Christian Grey saves her from a fucking bicycle.
Yeah.
Yes,
Instead it's so much less badass. It's so
'Cause,
much
like,
sillier.
Because, like, the scene in the book where, yeah, she almost gets crushed by Ben, like, she's literally about to be a pancake.
Yeah.
Like, she's
And then
standing in
Edward
front of, there is a vehicle here, and a van is coming, Bella's here, and there's a vehicle coming, and she's about to be squished, and Edward's like, not today, Satan, rescues her, and then the van again almost, like, does a spin, and almost pancakes her again, and he's like, no! Whereas, Christian Grey saves, what the frick is her name? Anastasia Steele. He saves Anastasia from a bicycle.
I mean, but he can't save her from a moving car.
I know, but I don't give a fuck. It's funny. It's funny.
No, like no, because a moving car would have been too violent for fan fiction. Okay.
For a billionaire instead of a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah. A BDSM billionaire.
But also, like, what's interesting though is, like, given copyright laws and stuff, it's a wonder that Stephanie Meyer didn't sue the fuck out of E.L. James.
Especially with the fame E.L. James got. The money she made.
Think about
Oh
it,
god.
E.L. James took the work, basically because what it is pro-life, pro-abstinence Mormon propaganda.
Yeah.
She took that, turned it into billionaire BDSM.
Well, to be fair to E.L. James, only the first book is really fan fiction-y. The final two aren't. They have nothing to do with Twilight.
Right, but the first book is what got her famous.
Yeah.
And the fact that she made money off of it, and especially given how offensive it would have been to her Mormon sensibilities.
Yeah, because I'm
she
pretty sure in the first book, I'm pretty sure, because, like, the first book literally was written as fan fiction, like, delivered chapter by chapter. I'm pretty sure the names were the same.
They were.
Initially. Yeah, and like, Anastasia's best friend that she was covering for and everything, she was Rosalie. Which,
was that
weird choice?
Rosalie?
Weird choice.
Yeah, that's a very weird choice. Kate. Her name's Kate.
Weird choice, but I'm pretty sure that was.
And there's
Rosalie.
even like and Jacob's in it too.
Yes,
Yeah.
but she doesn't entertain the idea of Anastasia and Jose, like Stephanie Meyer.
So
Entertain the idea of Jacob and Bella.
she turned the Native American into a Hispanic.
Yes. Yes, she did.
It's interchangeable, right? That's how non-white people work. Sorry.
It is what it's a mess. You know where she managed to avoid being sued. She added in her subconscious and her inner goddess.
That wasn't a character for Bella.
No, and those two, because Anastasia has those two things in her head. She has her subconscious and her inner goddess, and they do things about 60 times a piece in each book.
Yes, they do.
So when it feels like they're getting referenced a lot, that's because they are. I word searched inner goddess and subconscious. And yeah, they show up, I think, around 62 times a piece.
They are characters.
Something that's also fucking hilarious about 50 Shades of Grey is that you can tell it was written by a middle-aged woman.
Fuck yeah!
Because this like hilarious, this very young like woman from Seattle, right? Is she in Seattle?
Portland.
Yeah.
Okay, Portland.
She moved to Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in Seattle.
All right.
He
I
held
know a lot about the series.
Right. This very young woman from Portland moved to Seattle. Speaks like a 45-year-old British woman.
Yeah, at least Bella talks like a teenager.
I have no defense for Anna because she's 22, like in the books.
And she's never been kissed.
No, she has been.
Oh, she has been?
She's done everything but sex.
She just hasn't done the
I will never. From memory, the tampon scene's not in the movie, is it?
No, God, no.
Thank Christ. Thank Christ.
No, the movies didn't really have anything. Like the most problematic parts of the books were not really in the movies.
Because
even like Christian Grey's like motive for all of his actions in life are glossed over. Like they're mentioned like a quarter of the way as they are in the book, and it's glossed.
Because Stixie and I watched, like, he watched part of like the bits that I had to show him from the first movie, and I haven't watched the other two.
At some point, we should do 50 Shades of Grey.
Dude, I'm fucking gay.
I don't want to, but I suppose we should. I rage quit like a quarter of the way into the second book. I rage quit. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't.
Which means we should do it.
I've read all of them twice, I think.
I showed him parts of the movie, and
they're so entertaining.
He was just cackling. He was cackling.
They're laughable, but I love them for that reason.
Oh God. Yeah.
I know that people who are into the BDSMs do not enjoy
no
because it's not even a little bit. Oh, it's a mess. The books and the movie are just a mess.
Since we're talking about Twilight, do we want to address Edward's watching Bella sleep?
Yes, we should. I think we should. You know what?
Yeah, because that does happen in this.
Yeah, and
this wakes up and she's like, "Whoa, there was someone here."
And this is why, also, because I there's not much I can remember about Midnight Sun in terms of like what has already been released. I can remember like a couple of things, like when they're in the cafeteria, why Rose, like, you know how like Rosalie just gets up and storms out of the cafeteria. I think the first scene that we see them. That's explained. Stuff like that. I can remember that's explained, but I can't remember what happened. So I can't remember if he's already walking into a room in Midnight Sun in the bits that I've read, but I'm hoping that it will make it less creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's creepy.
It's very creepy. Or like before they're even a thing, he's just in her room at night.
Every night.
Yeah.
Every night. Like, because the scene where she falls asleep reading in the backyard and stuff like that, he's watching that scene. Actually, I do remember that bit at least is in Midnight Sun. I can remember that from his perspective. He's watching her in that scene. That's not as creepy as coming into her bedroom and watching her sleep all night, every night, for weeks.
Before they've even really spoken.
Yeah,
And
he's still ignoring her at school.
Yeah.
And, like, I know that in at least season 1 of the Vampire Diaries, Damon does wind up in Elena's room while she's asleep at one point.
But Damon's still an antagonist at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. And, like, we know explicitly that 1, he's taunting Stefan, and 2, he's still, like, half hunting Elena. So,
there's motive.
So, like, we know exactly what his motive is. His motive is to be a fucking dick.
Yeah. It's
so, like,
less
that's
creepy when they're the antagonist.
Right. So he's not doing it to, like, because he's, like, still in love with her. He's doing it to be an asshole.
Yeah. He's doing it to make his brother mad.
Yeah, and we know that Edward gets more problematic later in the series as a viable life partner candidate. I can see why. Because 1, Bella almost dies on a daily basis, and 2, because she wants to bang someone else. So, like, it's kind of a natural reaction. But
he also fucking yeets for no reason in book 2. Like,
over a paper cut.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's over a paper cut. Jasper freaks out over a paper cut, and so then they
move away. Yeah.
Yeah. And Bella just overreacts.
And then sits in her room for 5 months straight.
And does nothing.
Yeah.
And then she becomes borderline suicidal to pretend like she's seeing him, and that's next book's problem.
Next book is I don't like the next book at all.
I don't like the next book either. It's annoying.
Yeah, I think next book will probably want to. Yeah, I think next book will probably do a bit more plot.
Yeah, because Twilight itself is so iconic in a way because everyone knows what happens in fucking Twilight.
Yeah,
like it's the memed one. It's just everything.
Yeah,
and Breaking Dawn is also memed to shit.
Oh god, yeah.
But I also feel like a lot of people don't actually know what happens in Breaking happens in Breaking Dawn. I think people only know about the memes of Breaking Dawn.
Yeah, they know that there's a creepy baby that an adult is in love with.
Yeah. Which is actually, when I rewatched the movies, I was like, wow, they actually do kind of try to explain that Jacob doesn't actually want to fuck this baby. That he's like, I have no control over my fucking emotions, Bella. And she's just like, you nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster? Oh, I'm like, this is the first emotion I've ever seen from you.
Also, though, that line, it just reads so much better in the book than out of Kristen Stewart's mouth.
Yeah, it does.
Like, the book does make imprinting far less creepy.
Yeah, because the movie only talks about it for like 3 seconds.
Because the book explains how imprinting works. I believe it's either a new moon or eclipse.
New moon.
It's new moon, yeah.
Because I think in New Moon it shows you an example of someone who imprinted on a child. It's either New Moon or Eclipse where you see an example of someone who actually imprinted on a child.
I think in the Eclipse we see someone.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of. Like,
yeah, because it wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, because so it's not in the movie, but in Eclipse,
it's when she goes to the reservation.
Yeah, it's when she goes to the reservation in Eclipse. Jacob is like, by the way, this is so and so. This person imprinted on this person, and it's actually the child is still a child.
And this guy's behaving more like a big brother.
Yeah.
And so you actually see an example of it, which I get that it's creepy, but when you actually read it, it doesn't.
Well, yeah,
having
because
read it,
like,
it just doesn't read as creepy.
yeah, because Jacob and
The way the
Renesmee don't
movie
even get
portrays it,
together
though,
for a
is-
long time. They do get
the
together
thing
though.
the thing that makes the movie so creepy, and I have so many issues with, like, especially Breaking Dawn Part 2, because it just undoes so much lore about Alice's visions. She can't
Yeah.
have visions about Renesmee. She can't have visions about the werewolves, but the movie ends with her envisioning them making out on a beach.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
like,
no, hey, he just puts his arm around her. That's all that happens.
oh, but it's implied.
Yeah, but it's implied that they're fucking.
It's implied that Bella and Edward are going to definitely be his parents-in-law.
Yes.
And
Yes, they are.
creepy. Like, and like, you know that reading the book, but it's not. You know,
Yeah.
it's. But there's still issue. Like, I think it's still a weird choice, Stephanie. I think it's still a very weird choice to make him imprint on Bella's baby.
It definitely
And
is
that's
a
the only
weird.
reason he liked her the entire fucking series.
Yeah,
Was 'cause
that's also
was,
something. There's a
he
lot of
wanted to
things.
bone her egg.
There's a lot of yes. There's a lot of things that make it very weird. And like, but just because you're given, I think because you're given, a book before it happens, you're shown somebody who is imprinted on a child, and you're shown like how the relationship works ahead of time. You've already been like primed, I guess.
Yeah.
To
know that this is a thing that can happen.
This is a thing that can happen, and to know that it's like not sexual until it's
and
sexual.
I feel as though, right, because I understand that the imprinting stuff isn't as important in New Moon and Eclipse as it is in Breaking Dawn, but they knew what was going to happen in Breaking Dawn. Breaking Dawn was out before the first Twilight movie came out.
Yeah.
They knew this, and a smart person would go, not everyone likes to read. There's going to be plenty of people watching these movies that have never read the books. So maybe we should, there's like little imprint, like, breadcrumbs that have been dropped for
like
2 books prior.
The
Maybe
only
we should be
example
doing that too.
they give of it is a sexual relationship. And New Moon.
It's Sam and Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really how it actually operates in the books is more of like a prearranged marriage that you have to wait on. And you just have to, because like werewolves don't age, so you just have to, or like you can decide
as long as
you
they're
wanna
still
age.
transforming.
Yeah. So you can stop and decide you want to age, but like, so basically how it's described is like you don't feel any kind of sexual attraction to children, but you know that you are going to marry this person, basically. So it's more like an arranged marriage, a magically arranged marriage, than it is like, now you're a pedophile. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So that's how it's presented in the books. But the way that they did it in the movies is like, Jacob has such a hard-on for this baby.
And it's freaking weird. Like, poor Taylor.
Well, Jacob tried to explain it, but no one accepted the explanation. Meaning Bella didn't accept the explanation. Like, everyone else was like, we get it.
To be fair,
because he explained it off screen to them better than he explains it to Bella on screen.
But also, Edward can read his head. Edward can tell that he's not thinking, damn, I want to bone that baby. Like,
yeah.
I almost said something else, and I'm like, I can't. It's a baby. Let's just say baby. But it's
still just seeing it in the visual media is a lot weirder.
Yeah, as a mother, I can completely see where Bella's coming from. Though.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely weird.
Yeah,
and it's like a weird choice.
Because not just like, even understanding it and everything, I'm just like, well, great, my child's future is like decided before she's even a day old. Like, it's also that as well. Like, your child doesn't get to have their first like stupid crush that she never gets to have her heart broken. And I think everyone needs their heart broken at least once. because it's a milestone.
Yeah.
That's where all the great songs come from.
Yeah.
They don't come from, marrying your first love and living happily ever after. That doesn't happen. No.
That's where, honestly, that's where most great pieces of artwork come from. Is like,
Yeah, you need
ouch,
to-
that hurt.
Like, in life, like, as much as it would break my heart when, like, my kids get heartbroken and stuff like that, it's how you grow as, like, that's how you go from being a child into being an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to experience, like, these life heartaches and challenges to grow, and Renesmee never gets to do that, Stephanie. Because you hooked her up when she was a fetus.
And, the imprinting thing, I also have always found the idea of, like, this is more of a thing in romance books, so I guess it fits here, but, like, the true mates thing as, like, such a... I don't like it, honestly, as a plot point or as like a mechanic.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Why?
Because of Blackwood.
Oh, fuck. No, I can't. Why do I like it when we do it? Or why do I like it when we do it? You know what I think it is? I don't think I like it with, like, when, like, wolves do it.
Where's the rest?
But also the wolves.
I don't know. I feel like it reads differently in Blackwoods because everything else is also preordained.
Yeah,
Like the entire premise of the series is literally that nothing is up to you.
That's why my face was like that. I was like, you do realize that's one of the primary mechanics of Blackwoods, right?
No.
The mating system.
Right, hold on. Let me.
Yeah, but yeah, no. To be fair, everything, like you just said, everything is preordained.
Yeah, so let me walk that back. In Blackwoods, though, the primary mechanic, like the primary setup for the world and the covens, is literally that if you belong to a coven, you belong to the coven, and you that's it. Like,
and you either die or you find a
literally
mate,
whether
or
like,
you still die.
Yeah, and from the moment you are born, you are either going to be part, if you exist in this Blackwoods universe, you are either going to be part of a coven or not. And if you become part of a coven, you are either going to live forever, or you're going to die in the coven, or your coven is going to collapse and you're going to maybe die anyway. So it's not just like the mates that are predetermined. It's literally everything.
The universe is predetermined.
So I don't find that to be annoying just because it fits
I
within.
would hope not, because it was our mutual idea.
It was. I find that to be fine because it fits within the actual mechanics of the world. But I think what I find annoying is that, like, in stuff like this kind of media with, like, werewolves and shit, it's like the whole world doesn't operate that way.
Yeah.
And it's not like a crux of the magic system. But
because also
have, like, this like one true mate thing, and it's like fucking irritating. I don't know.
Yeah, because like with Sam as well, for example, in Twilight, we'll probably discuss this more next book because that's when this becomes a thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was engaged to a girl. They were head over heels in love. Then he turns into a werewolf and bumps into her cousin. And he's like, "Wow, you're my one."
Yeah.
So he dumps his fiance for whatever. And when Bella's like, well, what if the person who you're imprinted with doesn't want to bone you? And then he's like, well, and Jacob's like, well, they don't have to, but you also kind of can't resist it. So it's kind of also like magical rape. But beyond that, like, they have a normal version of love, and they can have that. They can be married for 50 years, and then they'll just meet the person they're imprinted with, and they're like, okay, bye-bye 50 years of marriage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go be in love with a baby now.
Yeah, and Blackwoods doesn't really operate that way. Blackwoods within the covens is like this insular thing, and everybody has this understanding that, like, you are either going to become mated or you are going to die.
And like other, like, extra mated relationships still exist. We explored that.
But also,
And then he fucking died.
I like the term extra mated.
yeah, we do we don't discount that, because obviously, given that it takes 1,000 years for a coven to become established,
You're
I
gonna
mean,
fuck some other people sometime.
like you could potentially be waiting around for your mate for 800 years. You could be. So yeah, like that does happen.
And you're not expected to wait 800 years in celibacy if you don't want to. Like,
so we explore people like dating, or dating kind of people who are outside the covens because they live in cities or next to cities, and also
like
like
intra-coven.
yeah, intra-coven, extra-matal relationships. But you know that eventually you're going to die, or you're going to become mated and make it to establishment, or the coven's going to collapse and you're all just going to die anyway. So everybody knows that just hanging over their heads. It's not like you would just settle down and do something. It's not like that. So the way that we have it set up, I think, is also much better integrated into the actual lore and into the world building setup, because a lot of Blackwood's, when we came up with it at 14, was because we were 14, I think a lot of the Blackwood's universe is so set up around the mating system, which I think actually works really well, because it serves to make it, I don't know, like not as weird or out of place. Because it's much more integrated into like the culture that gets formed inside the covens. Whereas I think, the imprinting, if you're a werewolf, like why would you risk getting married? I don't know. Like, if you're not, coven members don't risk getting too attached to people necessarily.
I've only been half listening. I'm sorry.
Out. Vlad exists.
Look, sometimes they're young and stupid, but they don't necessarily risk getting too attached to people. But if you're a werewolf, you might get it.
You also might never imprint. I think is established. You might never do it.
Yeah. And they're saying like that. It's even brought up in the books that imprinting is supposed to be pretty rare.
Yeah,
but because there's so many vampires hanging around nonstop, there's more wolves than ever. There's more imprints than ever.
Yeah,
because their natural enemy is right across the river.
Yeah,
but I think with the way that we've had it set up is like everybody in the covens that's not the leader gets mated. So everybody knows that they will eventually die or get a mate. So everybody behaves in a way that presupposes one day. And I think that also, unlike a lot of other fiction I've read where, I don't know if I'll ever meet my one true mate, because in the Blackwood's universe, that you will, or you will die. It changes the way that people, it changes the way that people behaves in a way that seems more natural and less stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that's what annoys me. Yeah, because it just didn't occur to me that I was dissing our book, because I was like, but I'm not talking about that because we make more sense.
Welcome to Book Club with Bay, where people accidentally diss their own books.
Well, like I said, we make more sense because the culture, the world building is just based around how the covens,
that premise,
are authoritarian forest cults. Authoritarian death cults.
Yeah, that's a better way.
Romantic cannibalism. Welcome.
It's the unofficial slogan for the second book in the series.
Yeah. It's a fun time.
It is.
We need to think of an unofficial slogan for the one that's releasing in November.
Too much happens. I don't know. Yes. Hashtag
too much happens.
I don't know.
Yes. That is the unofficial slogan.
Happens, I don't know. It's really hard to describe your own book. Like that's that's something I've discovered
Well,
being an author.
Yeah.
Do you
do you
a
wanna
book
know-
about? And I'm like, a
do you wanna
forest
know-
death cult, and my mom's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
How would
describe
you
it?
describe it?
I think part of it would be because, like, you, like, I know that you try to avoid putting unimportant stuff in the book. And so to try and simplify a book filled with what you perceive to be important, it kind of makes it hard to... Because it's like,
also-
well, what do I cut?
And also when you're
What do I
describing
cut?
like a book to somebody, you're trying to avoid spoilers. And also, like, we know how the series ends.
That's what I was about to say, is like, we talk about this often where we're like, well, our heads are not in the book that's like currently out right now. Our heads are at the end of the series because
Yeah.
we know what happens. So it's hard
And
to
you can-
like dumb it back down to where that is when we know where it ends and we know how fucking fun this ride's gonna be.
Like, because also, like, one thing that I've seen as well is like series that have like a major plot twist at the end and stuff like that. When you're trying to describe the first book in that, where like, you know, the world is perceived to be, like, for example, we'll say in the Divergent series, they think that they're in like this dystopian, like they're the only city left, pretty much, and stuff like that. And it turns out to very much not be the case. But with that knowledge of what happens in the last book, it's kind of hard to then lie and say that the first book is accurate.
Right?
Right. Yeah. And like, for example, when I'm talking about Livscraft to people, or even when I'm talking about Yorda to people at all, or like just the Rosalie Watson series in general, like, for me as the author, Savannah hasn't mattered like this entire time, because from the moment I came up with her character, I knew, spoilers by the way, but the book's been out for like 2 years now, so I apologize. Savannah dies. I knew she was gonna die.
Yeah.
The moment I came up with her character. So for me, Savannah's been dead for like well over 3 years, and she's just been dead this whole time. So for me, she's like, it's not that she has a nothing burger. It's not that she's not important. She obviously is very important. But she's been dead for me the whole time.
Yeah.
And there are other characters like that. I'll stop giving shit away. But there are other characters like that that are in the first book that for me, I knew what was going to happen to them. And so, like, for me, like, they weren't, in my head, they've been dead. But for other people, like, their death was really impactful. Like, it was a huge thing for them. But because I built them to die, it wasn't like this huge deal to me when they did die, because, you know, I knew they were going to die. But so it's really interesting to talk to people about it, like, who read it, because, like, for them, you know, Savannah is such a big deal. But for me, she's just
dead.
not.
She's a war. To you, her presence in the book was she was a
means to
walking
an end.
corpse.
A means to...
Yeah,
the
like,
end of
she's
that
been
book.
she was a walking corpse the entire time for me. But for other people, she absolutely, and you know what, that's good. It's good that she wasn't a walking corpse for everybody else. But as the author, you know, that's how it is for us.
So when you're trying to describe the book, you're like, well, you know, there's a thing, we're a thing, and then there's a person, and you know she's gonna...
I don't know, read the blurb. Like, that's all I got for you, man. Like,
Yeah, so it's like, I don't mean to be lazy and pass it off to other people to get them to describe the book, but, like, in my head, the book is not...
You're seeing the entire story.
Right, the book is not how readers perceive it. And even, like, when readers look at the entire story, that's not even how they perceive it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, to them, it was a shock that certain people died. It was a shock that certain people did what they did. Whereas for me, I was like, yeah, because I wrote it that way. So,
yeah.
I feel like we're not talking about Twilight.
No, we haven't spoken about Twilight in, I think, a good 20 minutes. I think that's the book.
Well, we didn't talk about
like,
the end of it. I guess, like, the climax, I don't know. James wants to eat her. That's all he wants, right? Like he just
That's
wants a
literally all
snack.
he wants because they're like he's the Collins or she's the Collins pet. So he wants
Yeah.
to steal the Coven's pet and eat her.
Yeah, he thinks Bella is a snack.
Yeah. And nope. And so he does a bitey bite and Edward sucks her.
Well, like
to
he
get the venom
lures
out.
her back to Phoenix, right? Like
No, she runs
they-
to Phoenix,
yeah, they
and he
run her
works
to
out that she and James isn't stupid, and he's like, "Oh, I know where she went. She went to Phoenix."
'Cause that's where her mom is. Or her
and
mom
that's
was.
exactly where she said within my earshot where she was going. So of course that's where she went because that would be the last place I would look. He's not stupid. He's a tracker. Okay, he's a tracker, guys. He's been doing this longer than you. But then he gets a dead.
Yeah, then Emmett and Jasper rip him up and burn him. Because that's how you destroy vampires, you burn them.
Yep. And Laurent's gone to live with the other vegetarian vamps up in Canada. Are they in Canada or Alaska?
Like where the other like Collins sect is.
Yeah.
I think it's Canada.
I think it's Canada too.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where they are.
I think it's
They're
Vancouver.
north of the US. North of the US. And so he's like, I'm gonna go and give them a go because I think it would be a bit awkward if I stayed here.
Yeah.
And we don't know this for a bit, but Vicky ain't happy. Victoria is not happy that
Oh fuck no.
that
She's
James
a thing
got
for a
down-diddled.
long time.
Because
She's a thing for so
not
long.
Laurent, but James was like her
Mate.
person.
Yeah.
And so she's crankadoodled.
Yeah.
But they murdered her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then prom
so,
and then the end.
Yeah, prom.
And then prom.
Bella has a
broken
tantrum
Bella.
because she thought Edward was going to turn. See, this is another thing as well.
I don't think they've
"I thought you
decided
were
yet
gonna
when he's going to turn
me."
her.
Yeah. He's like, she's like, I thought you were going to turn me, and he's like, you thought that would be a black tie affair? Because he's in a tux and she's in a ball gown.
Yeah. She's in her prom dress.
And he's like, no, I'm not going to pretty you up to make you ride in pain for 3 days. Okay, we want sweatpants. We want a loose shirt. We want you to be as comfortable as possible whenever that happens. Not this.
Yeah, and she's like, okay, so you want me to go put on sweatpants? And he's like, no.
No, we're going to go dance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I
we're
don't
going to
remember
prom.
if they decided, sup, bud.
Hey.
I don't know if they decided yet that after graduation is when this was going to happen, but I don't think they decided that this
No,
I don't know
no.
if they didn't. Because he's still
Edward is
saying no.
Yeah, he's still like,
and then the
hard
choice, and then the choice gets taken away from the next book, so then that's when they make the decision.
Yes, okay.
But
after grad.
Yeah, but friggin' book Bella as well. You can kind of also see why every boy in the school wants to date her more than movie Bella, because like there's 3 guys chasing her in the books other than Edward.
I mean, part of it is just that she's new and this high school is like
small.
Yeah, there's 300 people in the entire high school.
Which, having gone to a very small high school,
The new
every
girl
time
was always, or the new boy.
That is so true. Like, everybody wants to bone, and it's not like they don't even have to be like super super pretty.
They
but
just have to be passably attractive.
Yeah, they are passably attractive. Everybody is like, you are a Victoria's Secret model, and we all want to date you.
Yep.
And that's what it's like. Stop.
And because it's such a small town
Can
as
I
well,
help
like
you?
all of these kids know her dad. There is all this lore about her and how her mother took her away when she was but a baby. You know. Oh, that's me. I've gotta do a yeet.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay,
We'll close it out.
Yep.
All right.
We will.
So we'll obviously do New Moon after this.
And we'll actually, because like we said, like Twilight's just so, like everyone knows the story.
Yeah, which is why we didn't go through it point by point, because
like we normally do. Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't be fucked to go through it, and you can't be fucked to sit here listening to us go through it because you're like, yeah, I fucking know.
Somebody dragged you to see the movie, right? So it's fine. You know what happens. So yeah, that's Twilight. The stream where we didn't really talk about Twilight. And
It's fine. We just had a nice little catch up over here.
Twilight. But next time we will talk about other things, mostly because probably people don't actually know what happened in like New Moon, other than it was boring because it was. But we'll actually have things
Edward wasn't in it
next time. So anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys next time.